Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the conversation series on mediation created with an aim and vision to promote awareness of mediation in the world around us and to talk about mediation from the perspective of a common person. We continue with a short legal disclaimer. The views expressed herein are the voluntary personal perspectives of the speakers and may or may not represent the views of a larger professional community they belong to. The conversation series aim to provide a general overview and awareness of the subject matter involved and may not be construed as a professional or legal advice in any manner whatsoever. This session is being recorded for wide circulation. Let me introduce the main speaker and guest panelist for today's session on effective negotiation in the process of mediation. We have Ms. Denise Kite as the founder of GMN Institute Turkey and Negotiators Society UK. So this is what only Dennis told me to say. But for a personality like Dennis, I mean, even words are not going to do justice. So I have written a small thing which I feel a woman who is an epitome of grace, a warm personality, someone who has a heart of gold. That's what I really feel. Standing tall amongst with the most beautiful smile in tough circumstances, making everyone around comfortable with her warm persona. And that for me
Oh,
is
thank
Denise.
you.
And Denise, I
Oh,
feel because you are living in a world where standing tall with your own personality, with your own persona, and making a difference to the community where you live is a big thing. And we can, that's inspirational for many women. Yeah, Swapnil, that was really good of you. Yes.
thank you.
So that's
So
really
now, after
feel
this
that.
introduction, I don't know how to go on. Thank you very much. You're so very kind.
So you're
So,
yes, please.
well, uh, I Purnima, I will say. Oh, Supnil.
Swapnil. Let
Nil.
me introduce them also, and then we start, right?
Okay.
So, Purnima is an advocate and mediator. She is currently working in BMC as a mediator from Bangalore High Court and has worked as an arbitrator for many cooperatives. She is welcome, Purnima, and it's a pleasure to have you on board. So, today I'm doing a very short intro for everybody because that's Denise who said that I don't want a big intro. So, we
Thank
all
you.
will not. Yes, Purnima, that's good. So Swapnil Goswami, Swapnil is an IIAM certified and impaneled arbitrator and mediator and also the student member at the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So she is just starting, as she told you, that she's just starting her career in this field, right, Swapnil? So welcome
Yeah,
to the show,
a
Swapnil.
fresh
Yes.
advocate and
Yeah.
new to this profession. Like I'm learn in a learning process.
In a learning process, yes, that's really, and believe me, when you have Denise here who has 20 years of experience as a mediator and in a place where women don't have voice, she is the voice. So that really makes a lot of difference. So Denise, first of all, we want to hear from you, from your experience coming to what it means being a mediator and how a mediator makes a difference to the community.
Wow. Let me think. First, Purnima is firstly hi to you, special hi because she is for a long time my social media friend. Yes.
Yes, yes.
So, and
We
you
had
will
met
meet
in
too, Swapnil. I hope so.
yeah, we had met in before
Okay.
Halim sir
Um,
webinar.
yes, yes, yes. Um, Firstly, mediation is a profession where I mean there are professions that may not need that you discover yourself. But mediation is a profession that you have to know yourself very well. Because to be impartial during or neutral during a mediation means that you are aware of your own conflicts first. So each mediation in this case is a challenge and a kind of mirror to the mediator, so that a mediator knows the self best or better each day. So from my end, I really appreciate all those years in mediation, because the person I am today is because of mediation. That of course, as a normal human being, I had my own conflicts. For example, until the age of 30 something, 32, 35 or so, I was so man-like. I didn't like to be a woman. I was designing fashion for women, but I didn't like myself being a woman. And only after 30 something, I realized, oh, being a woman is a very nice thing and I enjoy myself. Let me be a nice woman. But you see, this is a conflict because I'm a woman. And this was a huge thing. And then I had to find out what I experienced with my family when I was grown up, and how this affected my relations, how this affected the way I was doing my business. For example, I was very bossy, very pushy. I was really so masculine, not as an appearance, because I'm very feminine, but as a character. Some they saw me as a nice woman, nice little woman, but I was like a tiger. So it was so confusing for many people, and without mediation I could never realize this. And for example, I always thought I'm right, you know, nobody knows better than me, I know best. This is a terrible thing, because you do not let others talk. And when during the mediation, when people are simply nicely talking, sometimes in despair, talking about their conflicts, you already decide, somebody like me, I already decided what the cause is, you know, and what could be the resolution.
Denise, I think you should switch off your camera and then switch it on.
I mean, it's stupid to
Denise, we are losing you.
spend time to listen to that. So I learned to be passionate, for example. Yes, and everybody has right. Everything is possible. And people say nothing is impossible. I mean,
Oh, we lost her. Yeah, that's better. Hello. But I think we lost Denise for a moment. Let me just pause.
my line was broken. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, so these are my lessons. And then after all realizing all this, mediation helped me how to say, I didn't need to act. I became myself. And the more I became myself, I became a role in the society, you see, because what I match, and when people see that what I say and what I do is matching, then people started trusting, and they start to take me as a role model. So this process, the more you know yourself and then accept it, the more you love yourself the way you are, and then you became just yourself, and this gives trust to everybody, and so you become a role model. So this is, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah. I think your connection is a little bit dicey because we are losing you in between.
That
Denise?
mediation, I talking again went. Can you hear me? Shall I turn off my video? Maybe this would ease. I don't know.
Yes, we
I don't
can
know what
try
you
that.
heard
We can try
last.
that. Yes, because
Let
we are not
me
hearing
stop
you.
my video, but I will be talking, and then, so I hope this was an answer, Sonal. I don't know if you have any other questions so that I can answer.
Uh, See, we wanted to ask your experience because you told we lost you in between. But what I heard and what I understood that mediation has helped you grow personally also in the personal aspect. That's what we understood from your experiences, and it has helped you grow in profession also. Am I correct? Oh God, we've lost
I
you.
explore myself and the needs. So the
Denise,
more I know,
I think you would stop your video, then
more
maybe that will help. Denise, we stop your
how to
video.
say.
Oh God, what to do?
Yeah.
The last I said, I don't know, whatever is recorded, but I was trying to say that in each mediation, I met myself. The more I became myself, and the more I hug myself. You know, somebody can know the self but may not like what he or she sees. I like myself. I accepted myself. And the more I became myself, then the more my sayings and my doings were in parallel. And this created a kind of trust among the society. And then I became a role model. It all comes one after another.
Yes, and it makes a lot of difference. When we were talking earlier, we were also talking about your how you talked about colors, how that room and the setting of the room, how that helps in in setting of the temperament for mediation. That is also, in my opinion, very important.
Uh, Firstly, we have senses, 5 senses, and we collect every information as far as through these 5 senses. So when people are in conflict, they are at that moment within the conflict not very clear-minded to talk or to discuss or to negotiate. And if you consider that mediation is a process, so from the moment they come to mediation, I, as a mediator, have to touch not only by my words and how I manage the process, but also with the entire environment. So my office was, as I said before, was kind of orange yellow, which was to me sun. light, and brings the color yellow is creative. Actually, it is helping us to be creative and lively and so on. And then I always used kind of sea and fish and blues, because this was both the sky and the water, so it was a balance. And then I used lots of plants, not like flowers, but really plants. I mean, it's not like daily bouquets or so, really plants. And I had sometimes candles. And then I had balanced music, very, very light. I mean, not very loud, very Liza, not like very Liza. And I told you, for example, drums is very masculine. It could cause more conflict, more fight. Whereas, for example, violin is very feminine and it could be very soft.
Yes.
Which also may not be very helpful. But if there is a balance between the instruments, for example, piano is a very masculine, trumpet is masculine. So being aware of this and having a music, very light music, calms the emotions too. And then, for example, lavender, sandalwood, these would be the nice ones. And when people get into the office without realizing, they will be calm and quiet and so on. And then I would really recommend not to have any, for example, if you are supporting a team, do not put any pictures of or symbols of this team. Do not have any religious symbols. Do not have, so when somebody comes there, feels kind of the place is also neutral.
Yes.
They realize is very human there, very comfortable, and is also a neutral place. So sometimes we make the offices very nice and big and elegant, and but one of the parties could be very poor, for example, and that poor person can never feel comfortable.
Yes.
So it's always nice to have a kind of sufficient, I have to say, simple, but nice offices. But it's not really like kings and queens offices, because mediation is for everybody and any kind of person can be there sitting opposite, I mean, on the table.
Yes, people need to connect with you, your surroundings, to be able to come out and talk openly. So if they don't feel connected to the place, I think that
Yes.
makes a lot of impact.
Yes.
That's so nice.
Especially if you do labor, for example, labor disputes, if you are mediating labor disputes, and then if you consider the offices always for the owner of the business, that luxury could, the employee is already the poor one anyway. You see, I mean, if you think it logic. Or somebody could be from the city center living, I don't know where, and the other could be in a village, in a, I don't know, landowner or so. So we have to consider really the place very well, how everybody, I mean, our office may not be the suitable place, then we have to find a suitable place accordingly.
Yes,
So these are the
that's so beautifully said, because people need to connect to a place to be able to, feel free to even talk.
Yeah. And then, for example, you were saying that you could paint my face red, but as a mediator, you should never wear red.
Yes.
I mean, also, for example, I wear lots of black, not during mediation. In mediation, I prefer more blue, for example, more different colors, but not like this. Whites and blues, a little bit light gray, but not very much black, not red. So I'm careful about that.
I
Maybe a
think
little bit
pink.
red.
What about pink? Pink is good.
Pink
Pink
is
can
very nice. Pink is
teach
nice.
Yeah, peach is my
Very
favorite.
feminine, but is nice. Yes. So also the way we dress.
Turquoise.
It,
Turquoise is coming.
okay. Uh, well, actually, you said that I would talk on negotiation, but I don't know with my experiences. For example, I can tell you little things I experienced so that you can understand when I say know the self best, what I mean with that, okay? And these are little, really things very important.
Yes.
Once I was mediating in a city south, and it was a very big company, and the conflict was between the brothers founded the company and their children, okay?
Okay.
So it was the whole family on the table. And this was a very traditional place. And the city was is still very famous for its kitchen for food. Anyway, so we had all the mediation session, and then they prepared at the top floor a wonderful lunch. We all went up for lunch. And I cannot tell you, it was a wonderful table full of food. And at the terrace, this was the service door. I was just sitting here, is a long table. Opposite to me was the head of the company, the oldest brother, and then the others, the other brothers and the sons and so on, daughters. So a table full of food, and then somebody came here with a kind of, how to say, a big tray full of kebab meat, okay? And that time I was full vegetarian. I ate no meat. Now I eat a little bit, but that time I eat no food. So I said, thank you, I do not eat meat. And then the president was, oh, do you want something? Shall we prepare you something? And blah, blah. I said, you have so many things, so I don't need. Thank you. Anyway, so we ate this. And at the end of that, another woman came with another big tray. And you know, baklava is a Turkish sweet. Baklava,
Yes.
did you hear?
Baklava.
It's a really heavy. And I do not like sweet. I mean, till the end of my life, I can live without sweets. Okay, I don't. And I eat fruits and dried fruits sometimes, but especially baklava is impossible, mission impossible. Anyway, so I said, thank you. I do not eat baklava. And then the president stood up on the chair like this, and he was so angry. He said, you don't eat this, you don't eat that, and you are not even a slim woman, in front of everybody. And then I was not fed, I mean, but he said that. And so one thing is that I really, if I had problems with my weight, with my appearance, if I could hear what he said, but not what he meant, when I went down, there would be conflict. So I heard what he didn't say. And it is so important for a mediator to hear what is not said. And then he was saying, look, I prepared you so much. I honor you so much. Why you do not honor me? Why you refuse? Why you cannot have what I want to share with you? This is what he was trying to say, but he was using his own words. So I said, yes, this is a wonderful table. And there is a specific coffee they do in that part of Turkey. I said, this coffee I like very much and I cannot find anywhere else. If you can give me one service, one cup of coffee, I would be very happy. And then he suddenly said, oh, at last you liked something. And then this was it, you see? So this is, for example, how that I each mediator should put herself or himself out of the conflict, you see? Because everybody, the parties, when they talk together to each other, or sometimes they push also mediator into the conflict, but whatever they say is related to themselves. And very often everybody is trying to do their best. He, of course, said this because this is the way he knew. This was his way of communication.
Yes.
And he did his best. If he knew something better, he would do it, because everybody would do the best, whatever is best for them. You know, nobody, if they can do good, do bad.
Yes.
So this was the best he could express himself. And it is then the mediator's job, or professionalism maybe, that we take ourselves out of the conflict and to hear what is not said, so that we are not part of the conflict. And when we went down, everything was fine and we were having fun. Even though it is a mediation, but if I took this word seriously as the way he said, then he and me would have conflict, because I would say, "Not said. Why did he say that?" You see, and this is affecting everything.
Yes.
I could never then hear what he was saying, and I could never be mediating that case. I would never be impartial any longer. So this is a sample, for example. And then another one. So how this was a sample to hear what is not said. And another sample, I did commercial mediation. So I had one family mediation. I will talk about this too, okay? And then this is a good sample. I did only 2 family mediations. I do not like family mediation, but as a good lesson, I will tell that too. But one, commercial, and it does not matter how a mediation is commercial, okay? It doesn't matter. It's always something personal, private, always is involved. It doesn't matter what. It could be between the parties. It could be the party and somebody not sitting on the table. It doesn't matter. However is business, commercial, there is always ego, it's always emotion, it's always somebody else. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so this mediation was between 2 partners, and it was about some money. They established a company, and it was about some amount of money anyway. And so one was saying he took this money from the company, he's not paying. And the other one was saying, no, I didn't, and so on. Anyway, so we had a session, all this money ins and outs, personal coming and so on. Anyway, and it was not only this, but it was a mediation lasted almost 8 months. And but starting point was this money issue. And then it came out that really one of the parties really took some money from the company. But the reason was, and they were friends also family-wise, okay, both married. But the one who took money had a girlfriend, and not a Turkish, a foreign girlfriend. He took the money for the girlfriend. And he didn't want that there is a girlfriend, as because the wives are talking too together. They see each other also as family. So long years, business partners, as family, they see each other. And when I started mediating, and I knew that it will last long, I was thinking 6 months to 8-9 months. I told the man, as soon as we started mediating, it is forbidden that you talk. It's confidential, including your wives. You cannot talk to anybody. And the wives did not get used to such a thing. So they were very curious about me. Who is this woman coming? And suddenly our husbands do not say us anything. And of course, I refused to talk to meet the wives because they are out of the mediation. I mean, they are not part of the issue. So I didn't need to meet them. So in between, I knew that one of the men had an affair. And once when I got to the company, I realized, so this was like men's offices, 2 offices, and in the middle was the secretary, okay? And serving both. And I suddenly saw 2 women sitting there too, drinking coffee. And shortly after, I realized they were the wives and they had enough. So they came to know who I was. So of course, I had to talk to them. And then they insisted on having dinner all together. And I do not have personal relations like lunches or dinner unless it is part of mediation. For example, the whole day and then you go to lunch, but I do not want it to go to dinner if it is not part of mediation, okay? Anyway, but I realized I could not say no, so I had to say yes. Okay, I said. And then, yes, this was the dinner time. And I was sitting with the man who had an affair, and opposite to me was sitting the wife. And then in between, during the dinner talking, and she was saying how everything was with the husband. And when I knew he had an affair, and he told me how the affair was going. And this was a purely commercial mediation. It started like a commercial mediation. You get my point? And suddenly, unexpectedly, unplanned, I never planned it, but the process went in a way, a commercial mediation in that sense, or you can say maybe workplace mediation, the way you may consider, suddenly turned to be a very unexpected, and you cannot say anything, of course, but you know one fact and there is another woman doesn't know anything, and you have to manage this, you see. So that is why I say anything can happen and you have to handle it because it's confidential. And it's not my business and it's not part of the mediation. But these are, so even always remember, even the most professional, even the most whatever involved is also emotions, and can be such a situation that you could never plan before, you could never consider, but it happens. So each commercial, each workplace, each professional, whatever you may say, will always have anything. So anything can happen. And then another sample is a family mediation. So this was very interesting. This was a young couple. And I didn't do family mediation, but if somebody wanted me to do it, I said, okay, I will do it. And the couple tried everything, the therapy and this and that, it didn't work. And before divorce, they decided just for themselves, okay, we tried mediation too, it didn't work, now we can divorce. So they came with this idea, okay? And they came very early, like 8 in the morning, something, to the office. And when I opened the door, I'm not very tall. I'm 160, okay? 159 even, not 160, 159. But these 2 people, man and woman, like the man was 190, the woman was like 180. They were like models. you cannot believe, it's like fashion models, get out of a magazine or something, so dressed, and oh my God. Anyway, so we went to the mediation room, and they were both from finance as a sector. And this is how they met. He started working in a firm where she was the director.
Okay.
And she was a very ambitious woman and high rank, of course, than him in the company. And then they fell in love. As their relation started, the woman had wanted to work another company because she didn't want, as she's also very ambitious, she didn't want to be with somebody who is lower than herself within the same company. Okay, so she left the company. They got married, but their family backgrounds are also very different. Okay, her family is very aristocratic. Everybody sits on the same time to the table, they eat, and their language is very high, they have a distant relation, and it's really different. Whereas his family is, yes, my friend, the father is like this with the boy, and he's very democratic, and they make jokes and every kind of, this is his family. Anyway, so when they got married, and she always took career first, never child or so, but she got pregnant, and they had a child. And in between, they, of course, as they are working in the finance sector, they bought the most luxury house with credit. They both had most luxurious 2 different cars, the woman and the man, and so on. And when the child happens, the woman, when took the baby, realized that she wanted to spend some time with the baby. So everything became kind of meaningless for her. And she resigned without telling him. And he was then had to, because everything was bought with the credit, he had to work a lot to pay everything. So it started like this, that she prepared this table so that the husband comes at that certain time, but the husband had to work overtime. And then when he came, he was really tired, and then she was complaining because the food was cold. And then all these things came one after another. Once, when they were crossing over the Bosphorus Bridge, the man tried to express himself to the wife and said, if it goes like this, I may have an affair, and I don't want this, because I want that you hug me. And then the woman is that day thinking, he already has an affair, is just now telling me to get me ready for this. And then the man is thinking that she could never give up her career for a baby. So he never forgives her resigning without telling him and saying the excuse, because I wanted to take care of the child for a year. Okay, so this was the main thing between themselves. And I was asking the woman, repeating what he said on the bridge. I said, he was telling, and I said, the woman, please repeat what your husband is saying, word by word the same. That's exactly the same things. And she couldn't repeat, because as she believes he already cheated, she couldn't repeat. I had to ask her 3-4 times, really. And when she could repeat, she was in tears. And she said, how I couldn't hug my husband. And then I asked him, I said, repeat what your wife says when she hugged the daughter, how she felt. And he couldn't say, because he couldn't think. She was so career oriented, all her position and money and status and so on. He couldn't figure out his wife as a mother. So he had to repeat it exactly the same way 3-4 times. And then suddenly but imagine such fashionable, tall people. He was in tears. He said, how I could take the joy from my wife, so that when she wanted to grow our daughter. And they went hand in hand. Can you imagine? Because their perception was so wrong. They stayed on that day. What they didn't hear what the other party said. Actually, they had a perception. They had a conclusion, and this conclusion changed all their relation. So sometimes, really, but word by word, let the parties repeat each other's sentences is a incredible awareness for them.
Yes.
And they didn't divorce. But for me, it was like, I couldn't believe it. And 3-4 times, really, they couldn't repeat it because their mind couldn't understand what they had in mind was different than what really is said. And as a mediator, you have to really sometimes ask 3 times, 4 times. And when they change the subject, you have to come to the same question. You have to ask specifically the answer of that. And if you want them to repeat, you have to ask to repeat until they really repeat. Sometimes it takes time, but it is an amazing experience.
So
What else now?
their perceptional barriers that
Sorry?
really, the perceptional barriers that they had were cleared
Yes.
by your
Yes.
intervention.
Because their family background is very different, the way they met different, the change, because you see conflict happens, for example, when there is a long relationship, and if the parties come to mediation within this long, how to say, relation, you have to put this relation sometimes into a chronology, when why the relation started and how the relation came to that point. And the changing points within a relation is very important. What I mean with changing, for example, men and women could be fiancés, but this is not a really legal bound yet. As soon as you are officially married, it's another level, because then financially and everything is combined. Yes. Then you are only lovers, even married, but lovers. Then when a child comes, you become parent too. And the rules, you see, when you are a fiance is different. When you are lovers, married but lovers, is different. When you have a child is different. Adding different roles. These are all major changes. Then, for example, maybe the mother of, for example, the woman, the wife, is sick, moves. Or maybe they move to another city or another country. Or maybe somebody becomes sick. They lose money. Or maybe the child is born with some illness, for example. All these are, within this chronology, are the changing points. So if I could find out this what happened in their life, and then let them consider the time of change, what they think and what they feel, and if they could today talk to each other, for example, when I ask them, remember that the day your child was born, you are in a hospital, you both have the child the same day. What did you talk? What did you feel? What did you think? Although now maybe the child is 5 years old, it doesn't matter. When they go back to the day the child was born, the emotion is the same. And the connection between them is the emotion, and emotions do not have time. I mean, thinking may change, but emotions do not change. So if they go back to the day when the child was born, and when they can talk to each other today, what they felt that day, even today, 5 years after the birth, it's a healing point, because the emotions not told that time during that birth of the child adds and adds and adds and adds, and then becomes a conflict. So if you once go back to that time of change, whatever is the changing time, for example, somebody can lose a parent, a husband's mother dies. So if you ask them, what did you feel when your mother dies? What did you talk between yourselves when your mother died? How did you feel? It doesn't matter how many years before, but they both would go in their mind, would go back to that day. And then that day, what they would do or say differently would heal today. Because when somebody says, well, actually, I was really sad, but I couldn't say how sad I was. I didn't know how to say it. It's the healing today.
Yes.
You see, so emotions do not have time. So if a relation is long, then you have to find out the chronology. Within a company, it's the same. For example, a company establishes, suddenly earns a lot, having lots of profit, or can lose. Two parties may establish it, but a third one would be part two, and a new partner, or two people establishes, but then comes the children, or brothers, for example, establish a company, but then when they marry, the wives come into the scene, and so on. So many things may affect. And in a long relationship, if we find out the changing points within this relation and ask parties to go back to that day of change and talk today about that day, is a healing. And it's very, very effective. Very, very effective. Because when they say what they could do, they felt that day, or what they could do or say differently that day, once they hear, I always say, once when you know, when someone knows something, cannot say I don't know any longer. You see? So once the parties hear what could have been said or done, they cannot any longer assume it is not done or said. You see?
Yeah.
And this is changing, it's changing the whole perception. And then asking them, okay, now you hear what could have been said and what really was felt that day. What would you like to say each other now? It's the result, it's the resolution itself. And it's very effective, especially, as I said, also in India. I imagine you are very relation oriented. It's in Turkey is the same. We are not very analytical. It's not like in Germany or Scandinavia or England. I mean, we are more relation oriented, and we are more emotional people rather than rational.
Yes, that's what, when you were talking about that large family, we have a joint family system in India also, and disputes are there. So let's call Purnima here. Purnima, what about your experiences? Yes, ma'am. What about your experiences in mediation? How a mediator negotiates? We are using the word negotiate, but it's not in the main stricto sensu. But how does a like Denise mentioned, how a mediator manages to, the change of the narrative, I should say, that how they see each other after the perceptions have been cleared. So, what are your experiences in mediation? Let's hear from you. You are not audible. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yes,
now am I audible?
yes, yes. Very much.
Mm. Yeah, I had struggle of getting into this network. I couldn't get some of experience during mediation. That is like as you have told, it is during a time of negotiation, right? Yeah, during negotiation, like first we have to listen to them first,
We've lost you again.
all the parties. Uh,
I think you switch off your camera because I think that makes a difference.
yes, ma'am.
Uh,
Am I audible?
no, we are losing you in between. You can switch off the camera.
Yeah, no. Am I audible? Yeah,
Yes,
I've switched off, ma'am.
yeah.
Now, yes, now I'm audible. Right. Okay, ma'am. So the thing is, first we have to be a good listener as a mediator. From the both the ends, we have to know the parties, what is their views, what is they have come for here. After all the emotions burst out and come out, then only we can come for a conclude. I mean, to get into the agreement as a negotiation. Or sometimes we can see that as far as family matter is concerned, once all the things emotions come out, it doesn't mean we have to go for separation as such. We can go for reunion also as such by their views and emotions, as ma'am Daisy ma'am told. The once the emotions always carries, like it is not lost. Maybe for some due some situations they must have lost. Once it is been reminded about what they had, how what kind of relationship they had, they may come. It is possibilities are there to come in for going for a reunion as such. Like they wouldn't have been a chance of talking each other. Maybe the communication gap would be there. So we, being a mediator, we try to help them to talk both of them together, and their views in the joint session. We have that when both of them put forth, and like how the sea comes from the ocean. Afterwards, when it is cleared, all that emotions come. Then that again, that emotion, good emotions will come back. So with that thing, they can decision can be made. If the child is there in between them, we can make them to help them to find out what are the future consequences if the child is going to be faced, how it would be. That those are the skills ways and without the both the parents. Then the children think only mother will be thinking, but the mother thinks only I am.
I think we are losing her again. Yes, I think that makes a lot of difference. You know, the change of the narrative, as Denise, you also said, that when you make them remember what they have been going through, what they initially and how they have hurt each other because they were colored with their own perceptions and their own mind. So at that time, yeah, their perception is, that is the underplay, which is what they are hearing, and what they are understanding is a part of what they are perceiving the other person to be or to be saying. So, Swapnil, what is your opinion about that? As far as India is concerned, also, because you are a new person in this field and you are just starting your career, right? And yes, India, as Dennis, you rightly pointed out, because we are emotional people, and the disputes, whether it is family also, and sometimes even with the commercial disputes, emotions do play a lot of role. The underplay is there. So Swapnil, what is your opinion about that?
Yes, ma'am. As because I have observed various family disputes in the court and its mediations. So what I have personally observed is that the people are so much attached to their positions, like they're not letting themselves to realize the actual fact, which is they are not aware of the reality check, like whether they could resolve it or not. They have their particular stance. It is very with a very rigid mindset, and they are not at that point of time, prior to the mediation, they like have the tendency to have the adversarial conversation and blaming each other, and have a defensive action, and they have no collaborative options at that point of time. So the mediator plays a very active role in bringing them to the table, and having a conversation with them, establishing his or her own neutrality, and establishing their voluntariness as to they are the one who will decide their own cause of action or the recourse out of this mediation table. And further, when the mediator establishes his or her neutrality, and the optimistic approach has been dealt with
Your
the
voice is
parties.
gone.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in these factors, mediation and the mediator role of the mediator plays a very crucial role into extracting information and accumulation of facts as to bringing them from their position to actually realizing and make them realize their actual underlying interest. So these are my like limited observations till now. So
So that was wonderful, because that's how yes. So when Denise, when we talk about effective negotiation in a mediation, because that actually is a misnomer word, negotiation, but then it is not meant in the stricto sense, but how you glide them through is what I meant. So, have you had any more experiences in that make an impact?
Once I would like to first, when to Sunila, I would like to say one thing. When you said that people stick to their positions, usually when there is a strong need underneath, for example, feel very unfair for the situation, feel very unloved, feel not respected. The stronger this is, the more they are focusing on the positions, you see, and they are holding their demands because this is a way to punish the other side, you see. So they don't want to change because they deserve to be respected, they deserve to be loved, they deserve justice. So if you realize that when somebody is so strongly position oriented, that there is a really strong need not satisfied, then it could ease, you see, and then maybe some simple questions. For example, if somebody says, this is what I deserve, for example, wants $5,000, for example, and doesn't want to change it, not even $1, $5,000. And then the question should be first for a mediator to get information. Why 5,000? What happens that this person wants 5,000? The first thing would be the information, and the second would be you have to find out the anxiety, or have to say, what happens when he does not get this 5,000? So this is not fear, because fear is something we know, but about the future, we have to find out what happens in his life if he does not get this 5,000. then the next step would be to find out what happens when he gets this 5,000, which needs would be satisfied, you see. So first, why 5,000? Then what happens, does it mean if he doesn't, what changes in his life if he doesn't get it? Because for this he is anxious, that's why he wants to get it. And then what happens when he get it? What kind of needs will be satisfied? This set of questions will ease to overcome the situation, as you said, when people are stick to positions. And you have to really, and when somebody, whatever mediator does, goes back to the position, there is something that person wants that mediator hears. And usually it is really a strong emotion, and beneath is a strong need. And this is what has to be discovered. So, and when somebody insists on something repeatedly, you have to be able to say, okay, it seems this is important for you. Now I'm ready to listen. Just talk about it. I give you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, talk whatever you want about this. And because unless he or she talks about it, mediation will not flow. You have to give this time. Otherwise, we'll not get out of the position. So this is what I wanted to say. And then Sonal, about negotiation, you said, what was your question? I'm sorry, I would ask you your question again. About negotiation, what was your question?
Not exactly. I said that negotiation, the word actually is a misnomer, but in mediation, we are actually gliding them through from their positions to their interests. So that becomes a negotiation deal. Yes, in commercial mediations, it is negotiation. So the practice of mediation involves a little bit of negotiation also. Whether it is an emotional negotiation or with numbers, that's the idea.
Let me separate these two things. Firstly,
Yes.
Negotiation is not bargaining, okay?
Yes.
So fully different. So when we talk about negotiation, we talk about a process and a strategic process. When we talk about bargaining, it is about maybe within a negotiation, one point that people bargain about. For example, maybe the amount is decided, but how it will be paid, how many installments.
We've lost you. Yeah.
Negotiation is a whole process. It's a strategic process. And first we have to, because when we are saying negotiation, we really have to consider strategically what the other side. Okay, and then you can understand whether it is a bargaining or a negotiation by watching people. If
we've lost you, we've lost you, we lost you.
This is not negotiation, okay? Because negotiation, as it is why it is a strategic maybe process. So to us, what differs negotiation from bargaining, because in each negotiation, when I am, let's say I do negotiate with Sonal, yes, I have to know Sonal as good as myself. For example, the human resources invited me to talk. It's a negotiation, yes? There is no conflict, yet it's a negotiation. So before going to meet this HR director or whoever is from the other,
Dennis, we are losing you in between.
Can you now, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I have to know the company, the company's vision and mission, and where it is, how it is, the owners, and even the person I will talk to if I can get any information, because independent from the company, that person has a personality, and this personality will be negotiating with me. So I have to know all this. And usually we make a mistake because we mix bargaining with negotiation. When we have such a meeting, we try to convince the other side to get the job. It has to be the
You will have to repeat.
from their from. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we lost you in between.
So the point is not that I convince them, but I have to make my point clear why not in a convincing way, what kind of value, what kind of plus I could bring to the company, but not convincing that I am good. You see, what kind of value I can create is different than my qualifications. So usually we are trying to convince that I am good enough, I can do anything. Well, okay, you can do things, but what the value you will add to this company is something else.
Yes.
So this is what makes bargaining different than negotiation. So if I am doing a negotiation, I have to get myself very much ready for the negotiation, knowing myself, knowing the other side, and then how I create a value. So when I consider this in a mediation process, as long as parties start bargaining, they will be getting close to positions. Yes, because they will bargain about on the demands. So what I have to do is actually to bring them a little bit away from this bargaining and let them get ready for negotiation, a really negotiation. So they have to realize actually they can get to an agreement on this table. And if they want to, they really can have. And if they don't want to, nobody can help them.
Yes.
So if they want to really have an agreement, then they have to prepare their options. And as well, they have to be ready what they offer to the other side. And they have to be ready also to know if they cannot get to an agreement, what the best is for them. I mean, accept this table. They have to know their batna, as we always hear this one.
Yes.
They have to realize the cost of it. So on each mediation, we, as a role of a mediator, we have to tell them, please, if these are the problems, come at least with 2 or 3 different resolution ideas together with you. If A happens, fine. If A doesn't happen, what would be the B? If A, B doesn't happen, what would be the C? And if you want A, what will you give to the other side? If you get B, what are you ready to do? If it is C, what are you ready to do? So people has to find out it is not only a table for demand, but it is like a give and take. So that it does not become a bargaining, but you just say all the options and then let's see, let's do the reality check. What is possible? Are they objective? And if this happens, what you both have to do? And if it doesn't happen, what is your best alternative? So only this way it could get to a solution. But usually we are not very willing to listen. So we are not very willing to ask questions, let each other hear. And as soon as they say the demands, we hear a little bit of the history, and then we let them bargain. And as soon as the parties bargain, it means they are on the position. Yes. Because they're right. And so they cannot focus on future. They can only think on that day to get the maximum. They become competitive, not collaborative. So this is what happens. And this is a very important difference between bargaining and negotiation. And then we have to understand that negotiation is a strategic process. Parties need to get ready for it. And within a mediation session, once when the problems are listed, when the issues are listed, then mediator can say, okay, these are the issues. Let's take a half an hour break. For example, sometimes you may need to give this so that they get some options they can discuss, or you can facilitate for them to find how to say options that moment. But sometimes they come with their lawyers. The parties could be more than one person, each party. They can discuss between themselves, among themselves. They can talk with their lawyers, they can create, or could be another session that they get ready with the options and so on. Different alternatives can be done.
That's really good. So that comes from a very conditioned mediator. What are those skills and why it is important for a common person to understand mediation from this perspective that it is not just it is not just bargaining, it's not just two people sitting and deciding, or their lawyers sitting and deciding what is right and wrong. It is about thinking of all the outcomes, thinking of what could be the best solution, what means, what that dispute means to them, what is the idea behind the dispute, and what it can bring to the table, what that solution can bring to the table for both of them, not just one person. That requires a very neutral
And
and
the mediator has to be
sorry.
And the mediator has to be really very creative. I will give
Yeah.
you another sample I like very much.
Yes, please.
There was two Austrian mediators, a man and a woman. One is a lawyer, one is a psychologist. Man is a psychologist, woman is a lawyer.
Oh,
And they are invited for mediating within a big company. There were two teams having fights all the time, and so they were within the company mediating. And before mediation starts, they made a setup with the help of the human resources. They knew the meeting room. And before the people came, and it was a crowd, two teams. I cannot remember how many people, but let's say 5 people of team A and 5 people of team B, okay? I cannot remember the number. Anyway, so they made this room where they would have the mediation upside down, the chairs and this and that and everything, okay? And they went out then in front of the room. They closed the door of the room. Outside, they behaved, they were drinking coffee, doing as if nothing, they knew nothing, and so on. And suddenly the team, they started to come. And there were 2 mediators coming to resolve the conflict. So it's a big issue. And when the people got into the room, they realized the chairs were this, and so everything was upside down. And they were so ashamed in front of 2 mediators. Suddenly, these fighting teams started collaborating to put things in order for the 2 mediators. So it wasn't starting with fight, but instead, instinctively, because it was their company, and they had to do the meeting room tidy and nice and ready for mediation. So this was the first lesson. And they start with collaboration among themselves before mediation. So, and they were telling this within a conference in Geneva. And I was really fascinated because it's very creative, you see. when you want people to collaborate. So they don't sit separately, but they start even before mediation. And sometimes such setups could be really very important. So this is another thing. How to
So utter
push
chaos
them down.
brings harmony.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think one of the best, although mediation is a structured process, I mean, more or less, it allows mediator to be really very creative. It is very live in that moment, and just before or during mediation, you are really, the more creative you are, the better you manage the process, and the more you are thinking according to law and rules and this and that, it becomes more like a courtroom.
Yes.
So it has to be a little bit more lively, I think.
And that's the idea of mediation, because already the parties are in a troubled and a tormented state, and to put them at ease so that their logical thinking process and the mind comes back, that I think is really great. So Purnima, now as it seems your net is stable, so let's hear something from you also.
Yes, ma'am. I was somewhat disconnected, again connected. Like how in mediation it happens. Like we give time, we are connected, we speak everything. Next time, next date of again we are reconnected. Sometimes the whatever the past talking they had spoken in the mediation, that vengeance would have been vanished. No, they may come for and they would have understood where they stand. That is what they want. Both of the parties will know that. Like we usually give week times or 10 days time in our BMC. Then according to that, even the advocates also help. Sometimes we take the help of the advocates. They help us what is the inner thing they have. But we cannot judge or like come into an that conclusion that this is what they want. But finally we come to know only having during private session, we come to know that what is that they want. Then finally when we make both the parties put together and
Again, we lost.
then oh my god, ma'am,
No
I don't
problem,
know
no
what is
problem.
the, yeah. Finally they come for the conclusion, like they would like to they know where they stand. Like for example, in some men, like he would like to pay only for the maintenance of the children. He doesn't want to pay the maintenance of the wife. That's what happens. And she's working. Why should I pay? That it goes. Like negotiation starts from there. Then again, we'll come to know he goes back to the, like once this will be the stage, and some again some conflict arises, some fight arises. They go back to court. No, we don't want to continue in mediation. They go back to the court, and again they will come back after some time to the mediation. Then their views would have been changed. And we make them understand how years together it goes in the media, I mean in the courts and all, where you stand, all those things we try to make them understand. And they'll come back for their conclusion. Yes, now I'm ready. It is my child only. I would like to pay. Then it starts how much we have to pay, and what is that amount we are going to pay for the child. And there it starts. So that again wife will start telling these much are the amount, the child's education will be there and daily expenses. And nowadays for the girls, they're also feasible, like okay, even when they come to know both of them, that she knows what is his capacity as a how much he earns and all. Some ladies understands and they say yes, I will also share with it. You take care of the education things, other things I will take care. Then again, the bargain starts like as ma'am told, visitation rights. There, that also we try to consider here in the for the child. 1 week, like 15 days once. Again, that bargaining process starts. No, no, I can't give. Then with prior intimation, you can come and meet the child. Again, that one more problem arises. The child would be having an exams as such. You cannot come and meet. What is the alternative? Next, if you fail in 1 week, what is the next alternative? They only create their own things. They know because they are the better judges than their matter. So they come up with, then we try to make them understand it is the welfare of the child has to be seen. And once you meet once in week, and if you, what happens is usually first meeting they meet, and the love and affection will be more for the children from the father side. Then again, the more changes, the mood of the child will change. That also will as such. And he should also participate in going to the schools and as parent meeting, all that. Then only those things can be put forth in the agreement. Then finally, we say that it is a divorce is for the husband and wife and not for the children.
Yes.
That's what we would like to convey them. And see to that that is being not lost. And some the father, they also put some conditions. I cannot pay now due to this corona period. Many of them have lost jobs and all, and they come into bargaining like, I can pay now for 1 year, I will pay so much. From next year onwards, I will pay more. Then we also put for that according to the lifestyle, the amount has to be made to the child as such. This is a family issue. Whereas in the partition suits and all, we have come across like to put both the parties to sit in one place, it is very tough. And the upper hand will be the one who has filed the case. He says, yes, as you said, I'll fight in the court for more years. Anyway, my title is clear, I can go. But we would try to tell them that it is not, it takes for years to get, even after division also, again you have to one more case, again you have to do. Here at least you can finish up with this. You'll have your good title over here, the property, whatever has been, that will be, clarity will be given here. With your diagram, whatever the like A, B schedule properties can be clear, and you'll have more clear title here than going for the court for years together. That's what we give here. And sometimes like check bounce cases, that bargaining, that is no emotions as such. Sometimes some emotions will be there with the friends. So they may try to see that, yes, out of 10 lakhs, he was a friend. Now the situation is different. So, okay, I will pay you 3 lakhs. The friendship, the bondage will be retained in the mediation when we speak to them, and they become friends again, and they may continue the business. We bring such the relationship, and it is not a just, it is a situation which has arisen one time. It was not what we said, we put a line to that. How many times you must have gone through whatever the ill treatment from the family, what a husband or thing as such. Then the lady will make them understand, yes, the line is short. We were nice, but some we make them try to understand, but some are rigid. They cannot accept things to go back together and live together. They will come for the negotiation, and whatever the amount is being settled, all those with figures we write until the attainment of major, that is been put forth. And sometimes even for the, as a girl, we put forth for the wedding purpose also. During wedding, they have to maintain in our Indian, they take that, but the proper amount won't be mentioned as such. So again, that bargaining level, they start both of them equally will see to that it has been taken care. And during holidays, how many days to take for the child custody? That will be there. That also is being considered. In negotiation, again, it comes half week. That is half of the holidays the mother keeps and half of the father keeps. And even sometimes some people, some children will be, I mean, parents will be, one parent will be abroad and some parent will be India. All those things, we make them clear to get into that. Yes, you have, he can take them. That liberty is given. That clarity will be given in that, whatever we do, that negotiation, when we do it.
That that is also an experience, because when you are talking to people with different ideas, perceptions, and that's a perception that she is earning. Why should I bear the expense? And yes, emotions play a lot of role there, because when you said that after some time the father himself realizes that he's my child and I need to pay for it. I think the role of a mediator also would be important there. So then is any other experiences that you have had with with
I have with family. I did two. About it. But well, for today, these are all I wanted to share. But I can, if you have any questions, I would be very delighted to answer if it is mediation or negotiation and so on. Answering your questions, maybe.
Can I tell, ma'am? In one partition suit, like I had come across, the ladies, the two brothers, actually, the fight took place for the property. He is not ready to pay. They didn't have any children as such, and he is not ready to. The younger brother is on the upper hand because the husband is paralyzed person. That lady, for the thing, she's ready for everything. They're not ready to give back the gold and all. Okay, fine, that also okay. But she was so intelligent in that way. So she's a third party. The party is like sometimes that intervention of the other party, that wife. She's also beneficiary of that. Whatever she's going to get from the husband, that is a. And she was the acting member. The brother was just keeping quiet. He's not able to speak, but he's a person is this. Sometimes other persons also indulge in this and they speak and they try to solve. Even during business also, some if they want to sell, we cannot get the money. They don't have the money to share. So due to intervention of another person, a buyer may come here. He buys the thing and their problem is solved. We try to give them the solutions here, like solution in the sense how to solve. They won't be knowing for years together. That's what we do here.
That's really nice. So any comments by anyone?
No.
I think
no,
we've had a
but
very good session.
I appreciate for today. Thank you.
Yes, we've really had a good session. We understood.
Well, it was. I'm so sorry. It was so much of interruption was there. The net issue and
Yes.
starting. I had my laptop also was not. That voice was not getting connected. Otherwise, everything was fine.
No problem.
See,
On my end too at the
I
beginning.
hope
The
we'll
line
have
was for a reason.
one more session so that I could feel that yeah, this is done.
We'll certainly do a
Right?
sequel to it, and it's been a wonderful session. Even Swapnil, your comments and your inputs were very nice. Denise, of course, your experiences, and when we earlier talked about your experiences on inmates of the juvenile home, I really want, but today is not that day, but yes, those experiences, you are having a wide range of experience in mediation. So anything that you speak is a learning experience for everybody.
The Juvenile
Indeed, indeed.
prison, this project is at least an hour talk because it's really experienced there, and I would be very happy to share
Yes.
because it happened within a prison, different prisoners, and there is lots of lessons I would be very happy to share if you organize, maybe, because it's really interesting things. I mean,
Yes,
I think,
I think
as I say,
I
anything
would do
can
that.
happen.
I would do that.
Really, believe me, it's an experience. I would be very happy to share if you organize it. Yes.
Yes, I will do that. That is one next session, maybe in April. We do this session also because that is important for our country. I mean, also because that's rehabilitation, that is restorative justice, and that also needs to be handled once. So that's all for
Okay.
today, I think. Any
Thank you
closing
so
Okay.
much to
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you,
Vidya.
Sonal ma'am, for having me here. It was a great time and insightful and like very enlightening session for me, like to understand from the like industry experts, you can say, the
Yes.
field experts. Yes. So it
Service
was,
industry, but
yeah, it is like a emotional one. It has
yes.
an emotional aspect involved in it, and so on and so forth. So I was
Yes.
very delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
I always love meeting Denise, so I've already planned another session, so that's good. So
Okay.
thank you, Purnima
Yeah,
and Denise. It was a
thank you.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, same
I'll
to
just
you.
stop the
Happy
recording.
Women's Day to